Hello, I want to talk to you today a little bit more about how we build up an impression, a mind's eye view in our minds, and how breaking that down really is the linchpin of NLP and lots of other mind techniques as well. So, as I'm talking, as you're experiencing life, whatever you're seeing, feeling, hearing, touching, smelling, tasting, your mind is making what we commonly call a mind's eye impression. The only thing is, with the mind's eye impression, you kind of think, well, it's just a visual, it's just a quick flash, possibly, or maybe a longer little movie in your mind. But it can also have movie-like qualities. It can have sound. It might even be better than a movie because it's got smells, it's got tastes, it's giving you lots of feelings. And we build up this impression, if you want to call it that in NLP we call an internal representation. Now, I want to show you today how inaccurate, how our internal representations are a million miles away from what's actually happening. And by breaking down this idea that what our mind is giving us is completely accurate, then we start to be able to see possibilities. We start to be able to think that maybe there are other options, there are other ways of doing it, other ways of thinking about things that enable us to see that maybe we've had very tunnel vision. We just need to get rid of that. We need to widen the options that we've got, the possibility that what we're experiencing, if it's negative, isn't necessarily the whole truth. So I'm just going to share the screen. Let's have a little look at a slide there. There we go. This is a little bit on NLP, how a perception is born, how that internal representation is made up. And I want to show you that we really have no idea what reality is. We really are basing lots and lots of thoughts and ideas and feelings on such a minute set of information, pieces of information, that the possibility that things are a heck of a lot better than we think is so enormous, it's untrue. So let's have a little look. We've got something happening. We've got this external event. And it could be anything at all. It could be something great. Could be something not so great. I'm going to go with something that makes you feel a bit nervous. But it could be anything at all. So something that makes you feel nervous. And the information is coming through from the outside world through your senses. So seeing, hearing, touching, tasting and smelling. And we're getting enormous amounts of information, 11 million to 400 billion pieces of information per second. I mean, just mind-blowing, quite literally. And so we could never cope with that amount of information. So what our mind does for us, it filters stuff out. So just like when you want to buy on Amazon or eBay, you can go down the left-hand screen and you can just filter out whatever you don't want. And that's what's happening here. We're deleting. So if I'm thinking about my nervous situation, I'm going to delete all the times that I did this thing and felt really good. All the times that it worked out really well. I'm just going to delete those, just going to forget those for the moment. I'm going to distort. So even though I am seeing, hearing, feeling, touching, smelling, and tasting, and so on, I'm going to make it all slanted towards even more nervousness. I'm going to overblow all the stuff that could be problematic. I'm going to make it really loom large and distort it. way out of proportion. Anything that doesn't adhere to that distortion is just going out of my perception. I'm going to generalize, and because I'm creating this nervousness, I'm going to generalize to make it so that this always makes me feel bad. I never feel good when this is happening. So these words like always and never, massive generalization words, when actually, in reality, things could have gone okay in the past. Things may have been good, but I'm using always, 100% of the time, never right, and I'm generalized. I'm also going to filter on lots of other things as well. Now, we go into these in NLP practitioner and master practitioner in particular, but it's based on things like your beliefs and your memories, decisions that you've made in the past, and all of those have a little bit of a bearing on what's going on in the here and now. So you've done huge amounts of filtering, so far better than Amazon and eBay ever do, because you've gone from millions and billions of pieces of information down to between 100 and 2,000. So you've kicked out, hacked away, and lost so much of reality just in doing that. Now your mind then says, well, that's still too much. Still can't cope with that amount of information. So what the mind does is that it starts to put it into chunks. So these 100, 2,000 or so, it chunks, and it chunks it down to about between 5 and 7 chunks of information. So you start off with millions and billions, and you've got about 5 to 9 pieces of information or chunks of information. How do you know what's real? How do you know what reality is? How do you know that this external event that's happening to us could ever make us nervous? Because we've cut down almost everything. We've deleted, distorted, generalized, and we've added other filter systems as well. So we've got virtually nothing. 5 to 9 pieces of information per second. And this is what we build our internal representation on, believe it or not. This influences how we feel, our emotional state. Based on what? Based on hardly anything of the stuff that came in initially. And that affects our physiology. Physiology is to do with, your breathing rate. It's to do with where you're breathing. It's to do with your focus, or maybe you're just defocused, a little bit more relaxed. It's to do with how you're sitting. You're sitting up nice and tall. Are you slumped? Are you in a fetal position because you're feeling that you need that protection? And that physiology affects how you get behavior. It affects how you behave. So we've started this little cycle with massive amounts of information, filtered it off to a handful. And from that, that's where we make all our emotional state, how we hold ourselves, how we feel about things, and ultimately how we act. I hope that you can see from this that we're acting on minimal amounts of information, and that it could be that whatever made us nervous has absolutely no rhyme or reason to it in that reality, because we've taken away too much information, if you like, too much of the good stuff, and left ourselves with too much of the negative stuff. It's almost like we've got all possibilities coming in here and just a handful of negative possibilities coming out. And so, isn't it nice to think that reality may not be reality? That what we think of as reality is such a minuscule set of points of information that have gone through a ringer, really gone through a right mangle, if you like, and been scrambled themselves. Doesn't this open up the possibilities to lots of different ways of thinking, lots of other possibilities? Couldn't we be far greater than we actually think we are? Couldn't we have far more ability than we ever perceive in our internal representations? This is what NLP and other mind techniques do. They scramble those internal representations so that the old one goes away, and then you can insert a much more realistic representation in there that's much more positive, but it's still within the realms of your reality. I'll let you ponder your own realities now. Take care. See you soon. Bye for now. Bye.